Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Meta Cafe. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and relax, and let's chat about some interesting subjects. Today, as you can see, we have a guest, Debbra Lupien from Akasha Unleashed, or she is the author of the book, Akasha Unleashed, The Missing Manual to You. That, my friends, is the most intriguing aspect of this entire conversation today. That there is a manual and that you can access it to get answers about who you are, what you're here to do, what your gifts are, etc. Debbra, welcome to the Meta Cafe. It is so good to see you.
Thank you, Janet. I'm so excited to be here. I know we're going to have a lot of fun today.
Yes, in the background, guys, we discovered that she's a Cancer. I have a Cancer rising sign. So we're sort of kindred spirits here in the emotional world. That's how I feel like that works out. And it's always interesting to me, Debbra, to see who it is that I attract in to be a guest on my show, because I almost always find that there's a connection someplace between us, me and that other person. It's really kind of interesting. So let's just say a quick good morning to the women that are checking in here. Okay. Suzanne says, I just saw an ad about this. How cool. About your book, apparently. Good morning, Laura. It's good to see you. Asa and Willa and Debbie Tibbetts. Tumiel, good morning, good morning. She's got little sunshines emoticons with it, so she must be feeling really good and happy this morning. So welcome to everybody. And again, we're sitting here this morning with Debbra Lupien. Debbra, I want to give you a couple of moments here to tell us about who you are. And a little bit, I know, you've got a long path, I'm sure, on your spiritual journey, but give us the short version of how you got to be here as the author of the book, Akasha Unleashed.
Sure. Well, I'm a spiritual teacher, and I'm also the author of Akasha Unleashed, which I was really honored. It made international #1 bestseller in 4 countries, which is so cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was really cool, exciting. The book was divinely inspired because of my work in the Akashic Records, because when I discovered this really is the missing manual to you, all the information you should have had since you were a kid, which would have made a huge difference on your life. If you knew how you were wired to begin with, you probably would have made different, more empowered, informed choices. So that's why I wrote the book. But getting to that place was a really long journey, which I'll encapsulate for you. I was
paraphrase.
I was building databases in the 90s in the New York metropolitan area and got totally fried and decided I'm in my 40s. If I'm ever going to get a horse again, because I had him as a kid, I better do it now or it'll be too late. So I went across the state to get a horse, had her trailered into me. In the trailering, she got badly injured, and that set me on this journey of trying to heal her. And that caused me to learn all of these healing modalities, which opened up my psychic gift that had been latent for so many years. And then I had to switch careers. I couldn't do databases anymore. And I tried a lot of things.
I just can't even imagine that.
Yeah. So all because of a horse, I am now a channel and the Akashic Record Expert.
So what kind of healing modalities were you trying to use with the horse?
Everything. I did EFT and equine touch. I went to a chiropractic course. But the biggie that really switched everything for me was the animal communication, because that's when everything started to open up.
So through this healing process with the horse, you came to understand the Akasha. How did you make the jump from what you were learning there to understanding the Akashic Records? Did someone come into your life, or was that an aha that you had?
It was a series of teleseminars and study and research, because I was talking to dead animals, doing animal communication. So it's like, okay, I can talk to dead people too. So I did that for a while, but that didn't really satisfy me. My soul was asking for more. And then I was on this telesummit, and there were 2 speakers talking about Akashic Records. One of them really intrigued me. So I signed up and took the course, and it was like, oh my gosh, that opened up everything, changed my whole life.
And changed your whole life, and then you began writing the book, or you began researching for the book? Tell me a little more about that.
Yeah, well, it got me, first of all, to read my own records, and then to connect with my guides on a regular basis. So I started reading for other people because I needed practice. Yeah. And get these stories that would come through when I channeled. And Sometimes it's like a Disney movie. It's really freaky. Sometimes I'm in outer space. I can be in a cave talking to a dragon. I mean, all kinds of things. You just never know what it's going to be. And you go in, at least this is my experience, and they tell this story. It's very allegorical. And at the end of it, then there's a spoken message. And when I get done and I have it all written down and I go over it, I'm always gobsmacked at how the story that they wove in the beginning ties in perfectly to the message at the end. Because while you're receiving it, it's just like this free flow of stuff. And yet, wow, that was all planned out. And it's so beautiful and purposeful. And the symbolism will often have a lot of meaning as well. So it's a phenomenal experience that I get to have and share with other people. So I love doing that.
Yeah, and so I had, said in the beginning, the most intriguing aspect of the title of the book is this idea of it being the missing manual to you. And, there's so many times people are out there floundering. They don't know who they are. They don't know the answers to those big questions. What am I here to do? Who am I here to be, etc. So what you're saying basically then is the Akasha holds that information.
It's all there. Your soul blueprint is there. So if I use myself as an example, all of my life, I had felt that I couldn't work for other people. It just made me nuts because they would make all these stupid decisions. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't take this. I have to have my own business. So that was how I ended up doing databases. And I criticized myself for that. I thought, what is the matter with me? All these other people can be very happy working at a job. Why am I deficient? And then when I read my records, I learned part of my gift is power. Power is independent and they must have freedom of choice. So no wonder I can't work at a job. And we're natural entrepreneurs. Now, had I known that earlier, I could have saved myself a lot of grief. And I also have a gift of wisdom.
Excuse me.
Sure. And wisdom is all about doing research and then sharing the information with people. And I used to criticize myself for that too. I thought I was OCD because why am I obsessively researching things? It's how my soul is wired. Right? And I think most of us have this deep yearning to know, why are we here and what are we supposed to do? So what I learned is I'm supposed to empower women by sharing wisdom.
And so is that part of it? We were talking a little bit behind the scenes about things like soul group. When I had an Akashic Records reading one time, it was about the soul group that I was a part of. And then I can't remember if it was called a mission or your soul's purpose, perhaps. I don't remember exactly what that was about. So you're saying that is it your mission to empower women, or is that the soul group that you're a part of?
Well, the soul group is a different thing. And it's like in your records, there are aspects of you. It's like Creator took one piece of this and one piece of that and, put all these pieces together to assemble the unique you. And that's what your manual helps you to understand, each of those pieces. So for you, you now understand more about yourself from the perspective of your soul group. But you also have a gift, which I believe is truth. And so you're the spiritual warrior for truth. And that's why you're doing what you're doing, because you're sharing truth with people. And when you read their records, their astronaut, what do you call it? You do their charts, right?
Yeah.
Charts, you are sharing the truth of them with them. It's perfect.
That's so true.
Yeah. And see, sometimes people just fall into what they're naturally aligned to do, but not all of us do. And so if you can read your records and find out this is how I'm wired, then you get to go out and say, okay, how do I want to use this? Because it's always your choice. Purpose doesn't mean you have to be any certain thing. The prime directive from Creator is come here, expand your consciousness, and have a great time. Find your bliss.
Have a party.
Yes.
Find your bliss. And so you're saying, if I hear you correctly, that your soul purpose or your gifts aren't necessarily career oriented.
No.
I mean, I could be a spiritual warrior for truth and be sitting out on the streets homeless even because I'm running into people every day talking to people or something.
As long as you're doing what feeds your soul.
So it's about feeding your soul. Okay, got that part. And so when, take us through like what happens when you go into the Akashic Records. You were talking a little bit about when you buy the book, you get a prayer or meditation that goes along with it.
Yeah. So first, the book is to explain to people what the records are, because so many people don't even know they exist. So that was the main purpose, because you need to know this wonderful resource is available to you so that you can access it. Then I give background and I explain various aspects of it. There's a place where I talk about how many of us battle with the conflict with ego and our higher self and our soul. And we're trying to connect with our guides, but we don't know whether we're hearing ego or guides, and it's very confusing. So there's a little process I went through in there where my guides had me do a powwow with ego, higher self, and soul to make friends so we could all work together. And that was phenomenal. So that's in there. They can do that. When they get to the end of the book, they'll have a good idea of what the records are and why they should care. Then there is a special gift that comes with the book. It's a meditation that's download from Archangel Metatron, who is the overseer of the Akashic Records. And it's designed to reset your soul to default, which is like, wow, that's kind of mind-blowing. We're going to wipe away all of the stuff we've picked up and reset so that we can start fresh. And then there's an access prayer. So at the end of the meditation, you're in that beautiful state. Do the access prayer, go into your records. And just know that in the beginning, you might not get a lot because it takes practice. But just go and enjoy whatever you get.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people accessing the Akashic Records for the first time and for themselves may feel like, they're just making stuff up, right? I mean, did you ever feel like that? Like, oh, this can't be true. This is just me making this up.
Oh, yeah, all the time. Yeah. But then when you do it for a while, you start to distinguish the difference between the voice. For instance, if it's ego will often mock you or be very scornful, trying to know where you're at, right? Your guides won't talk to you like that. They're always loving and supportive. They might chide you a little bit, but it's more in a kidding manner. It's never criticizing you. It's always uplifting because we have free choice. They'll never tell us what to do. Ego will tell us what to do. That's how you know the difference.
Oh my goodness, that's profound, because I think we all struggle with that. Even when, you're sitting down and you're trying to make a decision. Should I go this direction or should I go that direction? You hear all the different voices.
Yes.
And trying to tease out which one is the voice of intuition, the voice of truth, versus which one is the voice of the I shoulda, coulda, would, have to, conditioned voice. So that's great. That's great.
Yeah. So all of those shoulda, coulda, must, have to, those are limiting beliefs. And I just put a meme up yesterday on my page. Let go of those limiting beliefs. You do not belong in a box. You are not pizza.
I love it. You are not pizza.
So many of us are living in boxes because we've had all of these rules and things on us. So you were talking about choices. Now, we were all designed to feel our way through life, not think our way through life. That's where we got off track. So in your solar plexus, you have this built-in compass. When you have to make a choice, if you will filter it through that compass in your solar plexus, choose the one that feels best. That's always the best choice for you.
In human design astrology, we talk about the thing that is the part of you that is your authority. And the solar plexus it's a newer center as the human template goes. Not that we've never had emotions and things like that, but the idea of it as a power center is a new sort of concept, and one that we are evolving toward. So when you say, ask the question, does this feel good? Is this correct for me? Or those kinds of questions, you're speaking human design and the eventual evolutionary change or the change that's already in process within our energy bodies right now to live from that place. So that's fabulous. But the emotions have this energy that's sort of up and down, right? It's like, you're a Cancer. I have a Cancer rising. We know this feeling of moods, right? And it can be a high and then it can be a low. And the idea is to, kind of catch the truth all through that wave. Does that make sense in terms of the Akasha as well and the knowledge there?
Well, sure, because it's universal truth, right? It's just we're getting it in different ways, which is what's so beautiful about this. I see it like divine comes along just the way you would do cloud seeding and, dribbles the stuff around and inspires people. And then it comes out through our individual filters in different ways. And that's why when you'll listen to different channels, you'll hear similar messages, but spoken in different words. And that's because we all hear differently.
Yeah. 7 billion of us, all with different filters, different ways of hearing, different ways of seeing and perceiving the world. It's pretty fascinating. So I'm going to take a quick break here just to say to everybody, if you're just joining us, I'm seeing some new faces out here. Good morning. If I haven't said good morning to you personally, good morning to you. I see Angie and Asa and Jacqueline. And if I'm missing somebody, Lynn, good morning to you. We are talking this morning to Debbra Lupien. She is the author of the book, Akasha Unleashed, The Missing Manual to You. And of course, that's the part, Akasha, I'm familiar with the Akasha, but the part that got me was that missing manual to you, because I find that so tantalizing, because I felt many times, and I'm sure some of these people here listening to us this morning have felt the same way, lost. Yes. And what do I do? Where do I go? Where do I get answers? And Deborah, what you're saying is it's with you. You have access to it.
Just like Glinda said to Dorothy, you always had it, my dear. Right? We all had it, but we needed somebody to give us the key. So it's like we're a treasure chest, and the Akashic Records are the key. And when you open that treasure chest, inside, you will find priceless artifacts that are the aspects of you. And when you learn about them and you understand how your soul is wired to function, and you start functioning that way, your life will transform in these delicious, beautiful ways. And that's how you find your bliss.
It just sounds so easy, right? And like, duh, I should have had a V8, right? Like it's there. Now, can we access the Akashic Records on a regular basis? Is there a way to tap into more information besides just your soul purpose? And I'm granted that's a big one, and your soul mission, that type of thing. What else can we get from our interaction with the Akashic Records?
Anything you want. You go there, you can ask any question at all. The answers may not be exactly what you're expecting, but they will be what you need, always what you need. Like I was doing this channeling one time, and the most bizarre thing, I'm seeing what looks like a heart monitor with a flat line. How do you say that to somebody, right? And so I very carefully asked the lady, do you kind of feel like maybe you're not living? Because I'm seeing like a heart monitor that's flatlining, like you're dead. And she said, yeah. I'm just kind of existing here. And that, of course, brought on the conversation where we could talk about some things she might do to make better choices and come alive again. So, yeah, I mean, anything. Like I said, sometimes I find myself in outer space and I'll get a lesson about things that are in outer space. You just never know. But it's always what you need, and it's always uplifting.
And so you do readings as well for other people.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I was doing one the other day, and it's just so delightful because it's like I get to give you this big present, right? And I open the box and I share all these fun things about you. So this lady and I are giggling, and she had some self-esteem issues, but by the time we got to the end of it and she had learned what this marvelous creation she is, she was like agog with, oh my gosh, this is who I am? Yeah, this is who you are.
Imagine that. I'm going to show people the book. The book is absolutely beautiful. So it's going to pop up on the screen here. Akasha Unleashed. I'm going to hide you and me for a moment just so people, oops, no, I just made you solo. Now you're front and center. Say hello, everybody.
Thanks for coming.
Let me put the book front and center. Akasha Unleashed, The Missing Manual to You. And it looks like, Deborah, there's an award here, best something on the cover. I can't read what that says.
Oh, yeah, that's for bestselling.
Oh, best-selling author. Oh, that is awesome. I mean, how fabulous that a book like this can become have that kind of attraction. Yeah. Did you know that? Did you go to the Akashic Records and find out that this is what you were supposed to do, write this book?
Well, as I was studying in the records and learning all this amazing stuff, and then I kept meeting people who'd never even heard about the Akashic Records, which had been me not that long ago. So then I was divinely inspired to write it all down and get it out there. And, I'm just kind of an emissary of joy, bringing the Akashic Records to people so that they can learn how amazing they are. Because the thing, Janet, I've talked to hundreds of people. And when I ask them, who are the 5 most important people in your life? Do you know what?
What?
Their family might show up, their friends might show up, maybe celebrities. They never show up on their own list. And that's tragic. We should be number one on our own list, right? We should put ourselves first, take care of ourselves, because when we do that, we come from this place of being filled up, being a full vessel of divine abundance and love and light. And then we have more to share, right?
Yeah.
That's when we make a difference in the world. We can't help people if we're depleted ourselves. We have to be number one.
That's craziness, because I think any person would probably feel like if they said that they were the ones that was the most important or had the most influence or something like that, that people would think they were strange. I think we have this strange idea about ego and self-love or self-acceptance or being self-centered. We got it all twisted, I think, with selfishness, right? Do you see?
Yeah, and it's actually selfless when you take care of yourself first, because that's when you have so much more to give. And, I was thinking about this one day, and in the Bible, it talks about love your neighbor as yourself. So what happened is that got twisted. The emphasis got put on the first part.
The love your neighbor.
As yourself. You got to love yourself first before you can love your neighbor. It was there all along. It was just masked.
That's pretty amazing too. Let's see what people are saying out here. Diane Kenny, good morning. She says TGIF. Me too. TGIF. Although my weekend is going to be busier than the whole week has been, it seems. So that's pretty funny. Good morning, Vanita. She said, women are often raised not to put themselves first. I would say that's absolutely a truth. What about you?
Yeah, I was raised to be a people pleaser, take care of everybody else. And it hit me one day about a year ago as I was walking out my door. It's like, oh my gosh, how wonderful is it to be able to make choices, to have an opinion? Because for so many years, it was always what everybody else wanted to do. Right? Yeah. And so many of we women are that way.
Well, and I think, I can share a little bit of an experience that I had when I had 4 kids. So for a good part of my life was devoted to my children. And then they grow up and they move away. And in that period of time that I'm really focused on family, and I was trying to grow a business at that time, that I get to this point where now the kids are on their own. And now who am I?
Yes.
That I really didn't do a very good job during those years of really bringing the me out into the world. And I think that's true for a lot of women raising families or caught up in the everyday world of the things that we have to do, that we forget to do something for us.
Yeah. So if you can spend 5 minutes a day, even go into a quiet space, get into a meditative state, and just ask to be filled up. Just get your battery recharged. When you do that, you are connecting with the 5th dimension. And you know what happens? That energy that comes through is so rejuvenating. In fact, it's reversing aging.
I'm all for that.
Yes. That's what it's all about. That's why people used to live so much longer, because they were more connected. So even just a few minutes a day will make a huge difference. Give yourself that gift, and then you have more to give others.
I'm going to see. So for those of you listening this morning, please feel free to type in questions if you have a question for Deborah. And I'm not sure that she can see the question, but I can certainly translate it to her.
No,
Angie says, wow, living in a box sounds familiar. Trying so hard to leave my full-time job that makes me miserable to do something I enjoy. I can't even picture Angie as miserable. This is one woman that needs not to be miserable. None of my friends, nobody deserves to be miserable. But Angie, you have such light. You need to be beautiful and full and out there doing what you love to do. Absolutely. Jacqueline says, I've never heard of that before. And I'm not sure, Jacqueline, what you mean. Maybe the Akashic Records, or is that, maybe you can tell us a little more about that. Suzanne says she needs this book. Why don't you, that's a great segue to letting people know how they can get the book and what other ways that they can interact with you personally. Tell us about that.
Okay, cool. So you can get the book on Amazon. It's there in ebook format as well as paperback. And you can go to my website, which is akashaunleashed.com. And I invite you to go to the meditations tab and help yourself, because those are all divine download meditations. I would love for you to have them. And if you do that, that will put you on my mailing list, and then you will be invited to my next live free channeled event, which is April the 6th.
April the 6th, and you're using Zoom as your webinar platform, right? So it's easy to access. I believe I'm going to try to do this. I can't add a photo from my Facebook album, so what can I do? I should be able to add a page. I'm going to share my desktop screen here and Chrome tab. I'm going to try to do what I couldn't do in the background. And let me go back here, and I'm going to hide you and I and make that page solo so people can see this is your website. And I'm going to go back to the page myself so I can scroll. And up here, you see it says meditations. And then if you go here, you can click on any title for more information, connecting with your guides, well-being, attunement, grief relief, and the blue vortex of healing. Wow, that sounds really cool. I'm going to click on that one. And that takes you to another page where to access this, you probably need to, yeah, there you go. You input your name and email, and then you end up on Debra's email list. Is that correct?
Yes, and they'll go immediately to the meditation. It'll start playing. So they can just listen to it right there, or they can hit that download button so that they can listen anytime. And I encourage them to do that, especially like the healing meditation, because it's great to have around. It's almost like being in a sensory deprivation chamber. That's what came through, and it's just a really cool, fun meditation.
Nice. Question from Asa. It says, can the records tell you or explain psychological or physical issues?
They can. However, the guides will always say, if you're having a health issue, you always need to realize you are a third dimensional being, and those rules do apply to you. So you should check it out with your doctor just to make sure that it's not something physical that can be taken care of at the third dimensional level. Now, at the same time, of course, you can go and you can do the healing meditation, and that will augment anything else that you're doing on the third dimensional level. But just be responsible and take care of your third dimensional self as well.
And, you know, here's the sad ramification of our not putting ourselves first. And Diane Kenny, I am so with you there, because my daughters are struggling too. She says, I wasn't raised to put me first, and unfortunately, my 5 daughters don't either.
Yeah, so you can start doing that right now. Be the role model and teach them. Not too late.
Not too late, yeah.
One of the things that I've been talking about recently is that what if we did readings for children so they knew as a child what their gift was, and their parents understood it and nurtured that? I was doing readings at an event, and this little girl must have been about 12. And I looked at her and I said, do people tell you talk a lot? And she said, yeah, all the time. And I explained to her that her gift is all about self-expression. She has to talk. That's her gift, because she's a channel and she's bringing through divine information and sharing it with the world. She has the ability to see situations and listen to people and filter that through her divine filter, and then share with them these most beautiful gems of information. So imagine as a child, if she wasn't shut down, if she was encouraged to express herself, when she gets to adulthood, she's going to be racing ahead so much further and faster than had she, excuse me, gotten blocked and then had to spend years overcoming that.
Yeah. You want a drink of water? Here, Deborah, drink.
Thank you.
We haven't quite mastered that yet. So I'm really fascinated by something I think I was reading on your website, and I just went back to the homepage of it because there was something. Actually, I think you said something about it's your birthright. What was it? Yeah, it's your birthright. Let that sink in for a minute. An entire archive dedicated to you, available anytime you need guidance or inspiration, containing answers to all of the questions you could ever ask. Talk to us about birthright and why maybe has that been hidden from us? If this is our birthright, where did it go in our consciousness that we lost it?
Well, in the Christian Bible, it talks about the book of life. That's the Akashic Records. It's always been there for us. But part of what happened is all of these various religions and indoctrinations are about controlling people. They don't want us to have the freedom to step out. And look at all the stories in the Bible about the prophets. They were channeling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, why is it so bad when we do it today? It's there for you. It was always there, but we got shut down. We got distracted. And the other thing is that our energetic frequency was lower then. It's been steadily rising, and we're now in a time where it's rising even more rapidly than ever before. More channels are coming forth. I just did a course recently with people to help them obliterate the blocks and obstacles to use their gifts to move forward really rapidly. And I couldn't believe the number of people in that group who were emerging channels. Some knew it, some didn't, but they're all over now. They're being called forth because we need their voices now. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the listeners just said she just loves what she just heard from you about the little girl that talked. Mm-hmm. She said because she feels better about talking so much herself, so hard for her to be quiet. And I think, Linda, I knew Linda from a long time ago, and I think she channels when she talks. I think that's absolutely what happens when she's talking.
Yes. Well, if you're speaking and words come out of your mouth and you're like, where did that come from? That was channeled. It happened to me for years. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, that happens to me when I'm doing readings for people, and they'll come back to me later and they'll say, remember when you told me this or that? And I'm like, no,
yeah,
I don't. But I'm glad I said it, but I don't know where it came from. That happens to me so frequently. It happens to me in the morning show here, where suddenly I'm off. I don't know where I went, but I'm talking. It's weird.
Well, this is a natural channel. That's part of the gift. You're out there sharing that divine truth with the world.
Yeah, and it seems sometimes like it is just channeling right through. I like to call it rather than channeling, because that seems so tired and old stuff. It's a transmission.
Yes.
Right. And I'm the antenna. I'm just picking it up and being able to share it. But it's not unique to me. Every one of us has the ability to do that.
Yes, we do. And then sometimes it's like it'll just pop into your head. It's almost like downloading email. It's like bing, it's there, and you get the thought, and sometimes it's a picture, sometimes it's a thought. That's channeled, right? That's a divine inspiration popped into your brain.
Absolutely. Let's see, any other comments before I want to ask you something else here. I love that idea and astrology. All children should be taught. Asa, you're absolutely right. Once upon a time, I actually got to go to the alternative high school in a little town here called Cedro Woolley. And I got to teach kids about astrology. I don't know how that happened. Maybe because it was an alternative school and the kids are kind of unruly and different and, learn in different ways, but they were fascinated by it. The whole idea that there was this map in the stars that could show them where to go and how to be and what to do and, the pitfalls, the challenges, etc., in ahead of them. It was so much fun. And I really do wish, sort of like Asa, that is something, metaphysics should be taught. The divine arts should be taught to the kids because they're so open to that. I think it could really change the world.
Well, we can do that bit by bit by sharing with people.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just making sure reading for children would be awesome. And Patricia, I will ask her that question here in just a minute, but I want to ask you another question. And this is kind of esoteric, out there, woo-woo sort of thing, but like what else isn't woo-woo that we're talking about this morning? I always have put the galactic center in all of the readings that I do. The galactic center being the source of all of the energy for the Milky Way, right? It's the center of the Milky Way galaxy. And I've always sort of pictured it as the source, the emanation of all of the knowledge that we have on the planet. Is there any connection that you've ever heard of between the Akasha and our galactic center?
Well, the Akasha is everywhere. So yeah, it would be connected. But actually, I'm not that familiar with the galactic center. So that's a different concept for me. But yeah, the Akasha is truly, it's like a thought away. It's always there. Some people think it's inside you. I tend to think of it more as being out there, but it doesn't matter. It's energy and intention, and that's what really counts. So when you're your intention is to draw that energy from the galactic center. And so it's like you're blessing the readings. You're empowering them. You're encoding them with more energy than if you just did a reading, right?
Yeah. I think of it as tapping in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just tapping into the wisdom of the cosmos. In fact, I think that's one of my taglines somewhere out there, is tapping into the wisdom of the cosmos, but to bring you information about you. So I'm just kind of wondering if I've always been tapping into the Akashic Records now and not necessarily someone's astrology.
Well, I think it's all connected to the Akashic Records because that's where all the information is stored. That's the universal database, right? But so what you're doing is probably because of your soul group, you have a connection to that area of the universe. That's what I believe. And so you naturally, that's where you reach when you want that connection. And then it's just like that download we talked about where it pops into your head. So it's, you tuned your radio station, if you will. To right? And that's
the old dial radios. Yeah. Just an observation. You use the word, the Akasha sort of as a database of all that is, or all that knowledge. And wasn't it interesting that you had a company that would be about databases?
Yes. So I say, in the beginning, I was mining data for clients to make their lives more efficient and better. Now I'm mining data for clients to empower them and help them have better lives.
I love that.
There's a thoroughness to that. You can see the path in hindsight. There was a reason. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's true of everybody, even your struggles, your challenges, your wins and your losses. All of that has served to bring you to where you are today.
Yes.
And it's all right and perfect, even if we didn't necessarily enjoy the process or the experience. It was all right and perfect. So good deal. Deborah, Patricia Woods is asking, could you do a reading today? I don't know if she means like on air while we're talking here, or did you want a personal reading, Patricia? Let me know in the chat about that. But is that something that you can do that easily, when you're on air with a group of people?
Yeah, I could do a little mini reading and just tell somebody about their gift. I just need their first name.
Okay, well, since Patricia asked the question, Patricia.
Okay, so give me just a sec.
Sure.
I use a pendulum to help me focus. So you'll have to relay to Patricia. So what I'm getting is her gift is divine creation, and that means that she is wired to be a very physical being. She is a fabulous manifester, but she needs to be in movement, in action, in order to activate that. So creation, as you might think, they like to build things. It could be buildings, it could be communities, could be groups of people, but they love doing that, and they love that physicality. So they could be great tour guides, for instance. They could be adventurers. And sometimes the creation goes a little bit too far and they get into risky stuff. I don't feel that from Patricia, but that is something that can happen for her. So her life is just really delightful, but she's got to get out there and move. So anytime she finds that her manifestations have shut down, go move. Do anything. Just take a walk. Go scrub the floors. But get that energy moving, because in the movement of energy is when the manifestations can take place.
That's so cool. All right.
That makes sense.
It makes absolute perfect sense to me. And Patricia, I'm sure she'll let us know here in the chat. So here we've opened up a can of worms here, because now everybody's asking. I don't know how willing you are, so I will take my cue from you. We've got at least 3 people that say, I'd love a reading. I'd love that. Me too, please. Are you game?
Well, I'm game to do a few. We don't want to take the whole time to do that, because I did that.
We're at 8:40, 20 to so we have a little bit of time. We can do this I'm game if you're game. Okay. So the first person that asked that was, after Patricia, was Debbie Tibbetts-Tumiel, or just Debbie, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's good enough. So Debbie is divine love and healing. And that means that she is a natural healer. and she just exudes this love. She brings to the world this energy of non-judgment and acceptance. And people love being with her because of that, because it's kind of unusual. So many people are very judgmental. And the important thing for Debbie to know is that just because you're love and healing doesn't mean you have to be a healer. What it means is that your energy that exudes from you without you doing anything is healing, because you give that space of love and acceptance. If you do want to heal, that's awesome. You would be great at it. But here's what you need to remember. Love and healing tends to turn into a doormat because they give and give and give, right? They just have these big hearts and they want to heal the world. Take care of you first. Never give to depletion. Always give from abundance. And when you do give, if you're healing, let's say, you want to make sure that you're not giving your own energy, right? You want to make sure you're channeling divine through you to them. And then what will happen is, as the divine energy passes through you to them, you're also getting that extra shot of divine healing energy, which will energize you, won't deplete you. So if you ever do a healing and you feel depleted, it means you've been giving your energy. So you want to be careful of that. So let us know if that makes sense.
Oh, I know, Debbie. It makes absolute sense. In human design, she is a projector, and they are designed that way, and they can easily get burned out when and get bitter, turn bitter when things, when people are taking advantage or they're not, drawing their own boundaries, that kind of thing. So that's perfect. Thank you, Deborah.
Yeah.
And I'll relay comments if I get those in here. The next person is Diane.
Okay. Diane's was a little harder to get, so maybe she was a little afraid to hear. What happens. I've gone to your records sometimes, and often I'll see doors, and the doors would always open, but sometimes they would be stuck. And I would ask the person afterwards, were you kind of, and that's why the doors were stuck. So Diane comes up as self-expression. So she's one of those people who needs to speak and share her divine message with the world. And they're wonderful teachers. They can be great on the stage. They can be great doing video. Anywhere you want to teach is great. Small groups, large groups, doesn't matter. Whatever feeds your soul. But here's what you want to know. As a teacher, as self-expression, you don't want to be teaching somebody else's curriculum. This needs to be your own divine downloaded curriculum. So what will happen is it'll come through to you, and then you have to process it through your own filter. So if you've got one or two friends that you can bounce ideas off of to help you to massage that message into the final product you want to share with the world, that would be really helpful for you. But just know you have this message you need to share with the world.
Ooh, getting chills. That's awesome. Thank you, Deborah. I've got two more. Is that cool with you? Are you good?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Suzanne.
Suzanne. So Suzanne, like you, is truth. That means, Suzanne, that you are a spiritual warrior for truth. You see injustice and lies, and it just harms your soul. You just have to speak out about it. So the truth, those are the people who are the whistleblowers in our world, because they just can't stand it. They have to speak out for truth. When they're in alignment with their gift, they are fabulous lie detectors. People cannot lie to them because they just see it. They energetically are reading it, whether they realize that's what they're doing or not. So here they are, but their big challenge is that they see it and they say it, and it's not always diplomatic. So as a child, truth really struggles because they get shut down because we don't say those things in nice society, right? And sometimes they'll grow up not being able to express themselves very well. They have to get over that because they've got to use their voice. That's how they're wired. Now, sometimes they will move into like graphic arts of some sort, because that's another way to get your truth out there. So that's cool. Do that, but also use your voice. Use them both, because they're all beautiful ways of speaking your truth. But that's what you need to be doing.
I love it, Suzanne. That sounds so right up your alley. And the last person here is Asa.
Sure. Asa. There's always one in every crowd. So Asa actually has a primary and a secondary, but for brevity, we're just going to go into the primary. So primarily, you are divine power, and that means you are that individual who must have free choice. You don't even like to get pinned down to appointments. It would be nice if they could all just be penciled in and you could change your mind, because you want to be spontaneous. You don't want to shut down any choices. You're very independent, free-willed. You're a teacher. You're also very intuitive and sensitive. So if you find that sometimes you just want to be a hermit because that energy can be just so overwhelming out there, that's the reason you need to find a balance. Go ahead, be a hermit, but then come back out and be with people and share your beautiful messages that you have to share. Because I can tell you, being power, I spent 10 years being a hermit on the mountaintop before I got into this business. And you can't share your gift with the world if you're being a hermit. So come out and share it with people. And there's more, but that's just a snippet of it.
Wow. So let me tell you some of the feedback that you're getting on this. And this is the part that just makes me so excited. Patricia says, I feel like each reading you did was me, right? But she was the first person that you did the reading for, and it, felt spot on, she said originally. Suzanne says, wow. Yes, it does. So perfect. Thank you, Deborah. And Asa says, I'm crying. Thank you. That was profound. I could tell that what you got from her for her was profound. Diane, this is the interesting one. She was the one that had the doors sort of closed, right? And, wasn't quite sure. She says, thank you. Didn't resonate with what you said, but Suzanne's sounds more like me. Mm-hmm. Now, I find that interesting. Suzanne was the spiritual warrior for truth, and Diane was the self-expression. And I don't see that as mutually exclusive. I think what she sees maybe is the need to self-express her truth or truths, maybe, right?
Yeah, well, what happens for some people, they are so out of alignment with their gifts that once in a while somebody will say, no, that's me. And that's just because you don't know how you're wired, and you are doing it in a way like you're trying to be somebody else. You've been programmed sometimes, and you're just trying to live in a way that's not congruent to your soul. And life gets a lot harder when you do that. So when they get into alignment with their gift, that's when everything just flows so beautifully. Mm-hmm. With less resistance, your manifestations will happen. And you can just feel this bliss and like Zen almost. It's like everything's right with the world. And it doesn't mean it's perfect. Sometimes your boat will get rocked, right? Because you hit rough waters, but you'll get through it so much easier because you know who you are, you have that vision, and you can always go back to that. Now, each of the gifts do have challenges. So there's more to understand about that. And when you understand like truth, that whole thing about being blunt and getting shut down, they just need somebody to help them learn how to shape the words so that they can be heard. Because the thing
how to enter the conversation.
Yeah. The thing about all of our gifts is that when we're using them, we're sharing with somebody, right? And when we get validation from them about what we've shared, that creates an energetic feedback loop between us. That's what feeds your soul, that validation. So if you're truth and you're getting shut down all the time, you're not getting validated, and you're feeling really out of sorts and not so happy. So that's why it's important to understand that gift and to use it in that purposeful manner.
Love it. Now, there's several more people asking for readings, but in honoring of our time here this morning, how can people get a reading? I mean, is that something that you schedule ahead? Is there preparation work for a reading? Because you were able to tap in fairly quickly here this morning, but is it always that way? If you're going to do a real full-on reading, is there preparation work that we have to do as the individual? Or tell us about how an actual reading goes.
Okay. Well, if it's a channeled reading, it's just like that. I just go there and I get it for them. But if they want to know these things about their soul, that's a soul profile. And it's actually a very specific set of questions that I go to their record and I ask. It's deep research. This is like deep dive into your soul, opening that treasure chest and getting all the details about the aspects of you and how they fit together. And that takes me about an hour to go do all the research. And then I write it all up because I want them to have it in writing. And I also will record our session. So for verbal people, they can have it that way. And, you know, the ones who like it writing can have that. They can find all of that on my website under readings. And I have a mini one that they can do that's budget friendly, or if they're really ready to deep dive, then there's the soul profile. So yeah, it's all there.
That's awesome to know. So that's on your Akasha Unleashed website. Okay, very cool. So there was something else I was going to say. Darn it, what was it? Well, I've totally lost it now. But in the interest of time here, you know, can you kind of sum up the Akashic Records, the book? What do you want people to take away from this session today as a final message, if you will, or wisdom?
I want them to know that they do have this missing manual. It's called the Akashic Records. My book is not the missing manual, by the way. Some people think that. It's explaining to you that the Akashic Records are your missing manual.
Yes.
It's your birthright. Your creator gave it to you to guide you through life, to help you live the most expansive, empowered life. So if you're not using it, you're cheating yourself. It's there for you. It's available. And yeah, it takes a little practice to get good at it. But there are people like me who will do it for you if you want to get it faster. We can also help you learn how to do it yourself. There's a lot of people out there who are starting to read the records now. So it's growing. Let's spread the word and let people know this exists, because just imagine if you had known this as a child, how your life would be different. But you can still do it. Now you've got to overcome a little bit more. That's okay. The journey isn't done until you stop breathing, right? We've all survived years.
That's profound in and of itself, but I just remembered my question.
Awesome.
Is the Akashic record that we access now for ourselves, let me see, how can I say this? If we're a spiritual warrior for truth in this incarnation, are we always part of that same sort of path through other incarnations?
Yes.
Okay. So it's like it's an archetype that you're expressing, but maybe in various ways throughout different lifetimes?
Well, yeah, because you've got different karma that you're going to be resolving and different things you wanted to focus on. But yeah, when we were originally created, we got a soul specialty, we got a gift, maybe we got two, and we got our soul group, and there's a couple of other things. Those are with us every single incarnation, never changes. Then there are some things that do change lifetime to lifetime. But here's something I wanted to share. I almost forgot. The gifts that we were talking about, to address Patricia, there are 8 of them. We all have all 8. That's how we interact and understand each other. But we have them in small proportion to our primary gift. So we can understand and relate to each of them. But if we function from the perspective of our primary and primary secondary, if you've got that other one in large proportion, then you are set up in the best place to live your purpose, to find that bliss and what feeds your soul.
Awesome. Yeah, that just occurred to me. And I was thinking, you know, do we just keep repeating, you know, adding texture and dynamic and things like that? I just want to pass on to you. People are saying, we love you, Deborah.
Oh, thank you.
Debbie, that was from Vanita. And Debbie Tibbetts-Tumiel, I love her, meaning you. And Asa, I will have to get in touch with Deborah to find out my secondary. Love this so much. Suzanne says she's just validating. I can definitely tell when people are lying through the TV, through a text message. So that's so true of her. And I don't know what Amazon sister means, but awesome. And Jacqueline, do you have a website where I could find out more about your book? Jacqueline, her website is akashaunleashed.com. And on that website, Deborah, you can read more about the book. There is the listing of the readings. There are some meditations, and that is how people can join up to your mailing list. And I can't remember, let me just check again. testimonials, other people. You also have a blog and videos on the site as well, correct?
Yes. And I have a lot on YouTube. I've got a bunch of channeled messages where I've done those live events. So some of them are long, some of them are short. There's something for everybody.
Love it, Deborah. Mwah. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I have totally enjoyed talking to you. I hope everybody else here listening today will check it out. Go to Deborah's website, akashaunleashed.com, or get the book, Akasha Unleashed, the manual, the missing manual to you. No, the manual isn't the book, but the Akashic Records, the gateway to getting all that information from you. So Deborah, thank you so much. And thank you, listeners, for joining us today. I know this wasn't my typical Friday, tell you all about the astrology of the weekend. So let me just give a quick overview of the weekend. The moon mostly in Scorpio this weekend. So we're deep, we're passionate, we're doing what we love. No major issues. Friday, today's a little bit of a red letter day. And I think that's just because the moon will be squaring both Saturn and Pluto. So hear this. We talked a lot today about empowerment, which is the high side of the moon squaring those two planets. So empower yourselves. Ooh, getting chillies. And go get yourself an Akashic Records reading or get the book Akasha Unleashed. And literally, I think it will be a great weekend. So thank you all for joining us. We'll see you on Monday. I'll see you on Monday morning. Deborah, again, thank you so much. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye for now.